Hi, everybody. Brian David Marshall here. I'm excited to be with Isaac Sears, Pro Tour competitor, podcaster, someone I've become pretty good friends with over the last couple of years. And we are starting a new Magic podcast, where it's like a new old Magic podcast, Isaac. I don't know.
It bridges the gap from then till now.
Yeah, so we decided that there's a lot of lost history in Magic. And we really wanted to go back and capture some of the earliest moments of competitive Magic. And so the whole idea of this podcast is to talk to the people who were at these events, played in these events, and take a look back whenever possible to paint a picture. We're going to go through all the Pro Tours in the podcast. The podcast is called, and you've probably seen it already because we probably have a logo and some other stuff by the time this airs, but it is Hello and Welcome To. So, and this episode that we're doing today takes place in the even darker ages of Magic before the Pro Tour. This is 1994, so 30 years ago. We just passed the 30-year mark, Isaac, of my first professional involvement with Magic.
So this tournament that we are looking at, and as you can see right here, hopefully, is a tournament that happened November 12th, and the grand prize being a complete set of Arabian Nights. And
it's a pretty good prize. Even then, that was a pretty good prize.
And the second place prize, a little less good then, quite still good now, is 6 packs of Legends boosters. slight drop off there. And does it say it on here? Does it say the format on here, BDM?
There was no format at that point, right? It was just Magic. So the Duelist Convocation rules had come out. There was a World Championships that had been held. The 1994 World Championships had been held. That was the first event. Allegedly, there is video of that exists on a 1-inch tape somewhere, like the 1-inch video format. And it really is like my Raiders of the Lost Ark, right? It's my Ark of the Covenant. I want to find that video. It is
and melt all the faces of everyone.
Yeah, because I just want to see Jeff Probst hosting a Magic tournament, because that's what happened at Worlds, which is just so crazy to me. He was a Seattle actor. This was long before he became famous for Survivor. But yeah, so we were running this event, set of Arabian Nights. What I love here even is runner-up prizes. Second place, 6 Legends packs. Third place, 3 Legends packs. No fourth place, right?
Like, yeah, no fourth, so, no fifth, no sixth, no seventh, no eighth.
Yeah,
just goodbye.
We had no idea. We literally had no idea how to run a Magic tournament when we did this. We just knew we could do it better than the people who were already doing it. There were a handful of tournaments that were going on. At this point in my professional career, I'd been in the comic industry, left the comic industry to work in public relations and events. Wanted to get back into the comic industry, started working in a comic shop for a chain of stores in New York doing their events. So, we would do like the Jim Lee signing, or for Wildcats #1, or the Youngblood signing for the Rob Liefeld signing for Youngblood #1. And, we had Jeff Smith there for Bone, and we had Mr. T for Mr. T and the T-Force, and the Roger Corman Fantastic Four movie, and I don't know, all these weird, fun
and
signings.
I was 7 at home.
Well, you should have come. It would have been very nice.
It would have been a great time. So this was held at the Roosevelt Hotel because you sent out flyers how far geographically?
Yeah. So we had to get people to show up. So there was Usenet groups at that point, right? But there was not the internet that we think of, right? This is still like Web 0.5 kind of, there's not really the big, regular websites. Most people don't have an email address yet. It's pretty unusual. You would wake up in the morning, you would drink your coffee, you'd read the paper, a physical smudgy newspaper. Ugh. There was, so like, how do you get people to know about things? So we took a page out of my PR background, and we just like contacted stores up and down the East Coast, hundreds of game stores, comic stores, anybody who was doing anything with Magic, and mailed them, a set of these flyers, thinking, people, please hang one up, please give one out to your customers, and really tried to follow the model for conventions in New York that had existed previous to this, which was like the creation cons around Star Trek and comics. And they were held. That's why it was at the Roosevelt Hotel too, because that's where the big New York conventions had been to that time.
Oh, okay. So this tournament and tournaments prior, and some tournaments still yet to come, were single elimination. This is before,
for years tournaments were single elimination.
Yeah,
that was really the norm.
Yeah. So a lot of people coming from hither and yon to play in potentially just one game of Magic. How many people were you expecting, and how many people did you guys end up getting?
We had no idea. There had been 2 big tournaments in New York. One was on Staten Island. It was run by a guy we call Bad Paul. It's just only to distinguish him from Good Paul. It's not a moral judgment. And he had gotten, I think, like 40 or 50 players, which seemed like a pretty large turnout at that point. There had been the Seaport Gathering, which was at the South Street Seaport in New York, and I think that had gotten also in that 30 to 40 player range, but was not really, the prizing for those events was not substantial. And Arabian Nights, that was a pretty big deal. Arabian Nights didn't get great distribution on the East Coast. A lot of people who were getting into Magic at this point had missed Alpha, Beta, even Unlimited,
Wow.
and some of the early sets, so Arabians and Antiquities. Legends was really the first time where people were getting access to a lot of cards. And even that sold out almost immediately, right? It was allocated, there were lines, it was pretty wild. So, we had no idea. We were hoping we would get 80 to 100 people. And we ended up getting, I forget what the exact number was, but it was somewhere around 150 people. So,
wow.
Which turns out to be a fairly annoying number to get in a single elimination tournament, which we had, again, no idea. We had to figure out how to do that. We were just figuring out. Fortunately, someone was there who was playing in the event who was a competitive chess player. And he kind of was like, okay, well, you've got to have, you're going to give a lot of buys. There's going to be, if it's 150 players, you need to get to a power of 2 by round 2. So you need to get to 128 players. So really that means 32 matches are going to happen in round 1 out of a 150 person tournament. And then you get to the right number. But we had to learn all that, figure that out, explain that to people, get people going. It's pretty fun. But I was worried about that, right? I was worried about single elimination. And so we came up with this idea for running side events. We had consolation tournaments. There was always all these new formats written about in the Duelist all the time. It would be, we were supporting those if you wanted to play, Emperor, or you wanted to play Degenerate. So, it was pretty cool. We let people pre-register by sending us a check or a money order, which was pretty funny. We also had like a mail drop.
It was before. Yeah, and even though it was before the internet, you do have, as I see on here, an internet email.
Yes,
can be sent to, and then you have an address.
Yeah. This was our so we had this pretty sick tech for the event. We had a judge, Tony Perotti, who knew the rules inside out and was very online at a time before people were very online. So he was he was a computer guy, and so he set up an email address for us. We also had a phone, like a call-in, like answering service, which is that phone number. There was no one ever at that number. It was just like a recorded FAQ. And then people could leave us messages about it. And like we realized pretty early on by the number of messages, by the amount of people who pre-registered, that we were going to have a pretty good attendance. But I don't think we were fully ready for what it actually ended up being like. So so one of the things, so I mentioned Bad Paul earlier. One of the other things about this tournament is Good Paul was there. Good Paul's one of my best friends. Known him for a million years. He worked at Neutral Ground for some amount of time, and he agreed to be a videographer for the event. So we actually have video of this tournament, which is pretty cool, and I'm excited to share with everybody here. Actually, it's funny. One of the first people through the door is Bad Paul. That's the ponytail and his back.
Classic Bad Paul.
Classic Bad Paul. Yeah. I see me with a vest. I loved a vest. That's my oldest friend on the wall, Tony. That's my wife, Carla, there taking money. That's my business partner at Gray Matter Conventions, Glenn Friedman. Glenn is a character, unlike many. But yeah, you can see this is all before the tournament started. So like, we were in the grand ballroom at the Roosevelt Hotel, and we're already pretty filled up with people before it even starts. I don't think we started the first tournament till night. By the way, if you've ever played Pandemic, the handsome gentleman in the mustard-colored turtleneck is Zev Schlesinger from Z-Man Games, who published Pandemic. We also
Back
went
in
by
time sighting.
Yeah, there's also another game designer that we passed by there, Mike Fitzgerald. Mike was a friend of Richard Garfield's. He was also the local DJ in New York on the oldies station, WCBS FM. And he was the game designer for Wyvern. Or Wyvern, depending on how you like.
Depending if you're cool
that.
or not. Yeah. Then we have the magic logo on the side of a building. Gotta show off how official it is. This beautiful piece of art, which I would love to know what card that is for.
Yeah, well, it might not have been for a Magic card. So we had a number of artists here. I believe that was Ed Beer Jr. That's Melissa Benson. Not pictured, I think, is Jeff Menges. But it was also there. We had 3 artists there. One of the cool things we also did with those artists at that event is we would make certificates of authenticity for cards that were signed by the artists at the event. So it says, and basically just says, yep, this card was signed by Melissa Benson at this event on this date. They were super cool. Someone recently gave me a set of cards that they had gotten signed at an event with the certificate. So I do have a couple of Melissa Benson signed cards that survived over the years. Which is pretty cool, because she doesn't sign a lot of things. Certainly not now. She's not kept current with signing, So, but that may have changed.
I just love through this video the amount of differing groups of people, and from like, clearly Magic has been from the beginning just such a melting pot of culture and life and like input of like where people are coming from in the city and like what they do. I love how you see briefcases on the table, very much giving it that authentic 90s New York vibe. It looks like they're trading stocks, but they're probably just trading Shivan dragons. It's fantastic.
Right, well, that was the Mr. Suitcase idea, right? Like people would carry around a bunch of their cards in a briefcase. Yeah, the guy with the briefcase here with the striped shirt and the beard, that's Eric Wennecore. Eric was a longtime player in my area, and he and I would always get paired at events for years, and we were like, oh, it's got to be something wrong with the software. Certainly not that we were both 0-3.
Yeah,
right?
Definitely not that.
By the way, that's our judge. That's our judge making announcements right there, Tony Perotti.
Yeah. So, one of the things that I'll try to have the the audio pumped up for this is he talks about chaos orb rulings and like how you have to flip it, or that it's not legal to rip it up into pieces and do like the the chaos confetti.
Yeah, and that it only destroyed one card.
Yeah, only sort of one card.
Right, it only destroyed one card that it touched. So you got to pick which card that it touched, it destroyed. Also, again, information was pretty hard to come by, right? Like
Yeah.
it wasn't as, didn't have as much velocity as it has, would even have in 2 years, right? So we had to print out the duelist convocation rules so people could look at them on stage if they needed. They could come up and check and make sure the deck was legal, make sure that cards weren't banned.
Yeah. The cards weren't banned.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah, it's crazy.
So how common was the bullhorn as a communication method for you in running tournaments this early? Was that something that, were there just not sound systems? Was it always just too loud? Was it moving from place to place? Why the bullhorn, and how long was that of use for you?
I think we had the bullhorn, right? We had the bullhorn. Remember, I was telling you we were running events at comic shops, and so we would have a bullhorn to make announcements to people online and to people in the store. And so it was just the default. And honestly, we were just trying to, be as economical as possible with the event. And so once you get into like, a sound system, right, like an AV system, that's an extra charge from the hotel. So, we just would bring our own.
It's not that it's that old. It's that you wanted to save that money.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean, again,
no,
we didn't know if like there you're gonna look at me.
Yeah.
I loved a vest, Isaac. I loved a vest.
Well, look at that vest. Look at the hair.
Yeah. It was a little long on
No,
the
it
sides
was
there.
great.
Yeah.
Very iconic visage. Well,
and,
yeah, you see kids, and like it's not that the game has aged; it's always been this way. You're seeing, in here I'm seeing kids that are younger than nieces and nephews, and I'm seeing people older than my uncle in this picture. It's just awesome.
It was. I mean, this is again a little bit of a function of New York too, right? That is
Sure.
New York is a pretty vibrant place in terms of like people being willing to try something new, and people who are maybe you'd be surprised seeing people who are older playing a card game. I think looking back in time, but New York is a place where people were playing games forever. Everyone bought their first cards at the Complete Strategist in New York, which is a wargaming store that used to sell miniatures, that then was the Dungeons and Dragons store, that was then the Magic the Gathering store to start, right?
Oh, wow.
So, and they're celebrating their 50th anniversary this coming year. So there was a game community in New York that was always trying new games and into new formats and new ways to play for decades at this point.
Awesome.
So part of the reason that this is taking so long to get started, aside from the fact that we're trying to figure out single elimination, is also because we are giving a bunch of people an opportunity to cure their decks and to make sure everything is legal. Some people we also had dealer's tables at the event. So some people were going to the dealer's tables and buying cards and completing their deck, or realizing that whatever cards were banned were banned, and trying to replace them. So that's really what this whole queue is people just trying to make sure their stuff
Is my deck legal? Is my deck legal?
Yeah.
It's 150 deck checks. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
So
it's not even deck checks, but like they're just reading through stuff, and word is filtering out about, oh no, we can't play with that card, or this, So it was pretty wild. But again, this is just Magic. There's no Type 1, Type 2 yet. Type 2 doesn't come around until later in '95. So this is you can play with 5 Moxes, one of each. You can play with a Black Lotus, a Time Twister, an Ancestral, and people are doing that. So, you're going to see, all the dual lands, everything, and it's just Magic, which I think is such a cool moment in time in the game, right? Before it's fragmented into 8 million formats. Although people were playing other formats, there were people here who had, they would have degenerate decks, which were a remnant of before the Duelist Convocation rules. Right, so
this is like you could have as many of any card you wanted, right?
Yeah. Guy in suspenders there, by the way, is Steve Jones. Steve was an actor and for a while was the most feared Magic player in New York City because he figured out that Nevernal's Disc was good and that you could activate your Mishra's Factories after mopping up the board with a disc and, they would still... live to attack another day, that was like his like the Mishra. That's where Magic was in its evolution, right? Like Mishra and Nev Disc was like a major innovation.
So you're talking about how this is the first time that you were having issues running this tournament, trying to figure out how many rounds. How were you running tournaments before this one if they weren't single elimination? Or were you doing it but just
I didn't. This is the first tournament I ever ran.
Oh, full stop.
This is full stop the first tournament I ever ran. We were Glenn and I were part of the executive team at this chain of comic stores in New York called Jim Hanley's Universe. Jim did not, they sold Magic packs at Jim Hanley's, but they did not sell singles. And they did not run events. Actually now if you go to Staten Island where the last Jim Hanley still is, they actually have a pretty good Magic scene. So, they're in New Dorp. If you're looking for a store in Staten Island, tell Nick I sent you. They're JHU Comics it's called now, but it's the same shop we were working at when we discovered Magic.
Okay, so this is before Neutral Ground then.
Oh yeah. Neutral Ground was May, April or May of. God, I was so skinny. was April or May of the following year. Actually, it's funny. Not that funny, right? I had just found out within a pretty recent amount of time from this video that I was diabetic. So I had lost a ton of weight
and you're just like, how did this happen?
from being diabetic.
Yeah.
So here you see people starting to play. So one of the things that was also really cool about this is, or not cool, but something that came out of it that was cool. Look, there you see some duels. See at least one. No, that's just a regular island, right?
Those must be islands.
Yeah,
I love how it's still the beginning of the tournament. We still have lands in front of spells.
There's a counter spell. One of the things you'll see also is a lot of the older base set. Oh, look at this, life totals.
Yeah. So it's a jar to put his life totals in.
So he's got 20 beads in front of him, and then as he takes damage, he drops them in the jar.
I don't know if they'll be able to hear it on the video, but you can hear it just plunking in at different times
effective.
where this. Yeah, but he'll be out of shot and you'll hear it plunking in, and they'll be in shot and you'll see him and hear him plunking in. It's fantastic.
Yeah, the D20 was not that common a method yet. Really, people tended to use beads. You would sometimes use a different color for 5s and then a different color for 1s and track. But that was really the most common way of tracking life at that point. Iconic shot. Look at that. Counter.
Counter.
I'm trying to figure out. I guess
Life.
that's Drain Life. And what's that last card? Is that like a jump or something?
Maybe.
It might just be another island too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're nowhere near that Drain Life here.
Yeah. Got these multiple islands in play.
Yeah.
And
One of the things I
one
was going to
finalist.
say is you notice, he does do very well at this event. Is that there's a lot of white bordered lands, right? And white bordered cards. there was not a lot of black bordered cards available in New York from the first sets. So you didn't see a lot of alpha or beta. So Sol Ring there, you see white bordered, all these lands white bordered. You know, is that Meekstone?
Yeah.
White bordered
Gotta get
Meekstone.
that out
So by
there.
the way, so let's just let people know what they're watching here right now. This is the finals. These are the last two players standing. The player on the left is
Or
Sol.
sitting, rather.
Or is Sol. I don't know the name of his opponent, but these two
Slight
players
foreshadowing.
we'll find out later. Knew each other pretty well. Oh, I'm sorry.
Despite
There's Sol.
Solomon's-
Sol's on the right. Yeah.
Yeah. Despite Solomon's preference to not having known him for that reason.
Yeah. So you see strip mines. Everyone's just sort of sitting around watching. And we talked earlier about all the different methods for life total, and you can see that the player on the left there was keeping track with pen and paper, which is really good. But
Very
also,
innovative.
But also Tony, the head judge, was keeping track himself of life total. So while pen and paper wasn't necessarily the most common method for people to use, it's interesting to note that the two players who rose to the top of this initial tournament were maybe ahead of the curve on operations and not just, using beads or, Skittles or whatever.
Ooh, Skittles
keep track
sounds
of
fun. Just
Yeah.
Every time we take a damage, have a treat.
No, people would do that. There were people who would do that.
Each game, a pack of Skittles.
Yeah, they would just eat their life totals.
Hope you don't gain life.
So
Oh yeah,
you
this
see
is
Tony enforcing the
they're
rules.
discussing chain lightning. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's a chain lightning send back, send. Just fantastic. Solomon's like, yeah, I'll deal 3 to take 3. That's fine.
And gets in with the Mishra's Factory. And then, yep, and I see another, I think that's another Chain Lightning, right?
Yeah, another chain lightning upstairs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fisher.
Oh, Fisher, man.
For the low price of 5 mana, I'm gonna blow up a thing.
He's a fireball for 2.
Fireball for 2. Get him. How's he ever gonna win? He's taking.
So he just
Just
put
the ways-
something down, slams down. Was that an earthquake? Yeah. And
I
finishes the game off with
think it was.
Goblin
I think it was
Grenade and
light-
Earthquake?
No, I think it was oh, what's the red spell that copies insert sorcery?
Oh, Fork!
Or I think it's
and
fork.
Earthquake.
Yeah. I think it's like
Yeah.
it's something good for.
Oh, look, and then you see the players just like jamming these cards together.
Yeah. Just box
No
them up real quick.
sleeves. Sleeves were not
Yeah.
something that you could use in tournaments for a long time. And so,
If you
yeah.
carefully, for those of you at home, if you carefully watch the bottom of their deck, multiple of these shuffles, you will see Moxen just losing their price value.
Yeah. I mean, but even then, right? Like, a card. Some of these cards were what, $10 for a really like expensive card in '94. Maybe if you were looking at a Beta Lotus, it would be like $25. Was that an Ornithopter? that we-
Lightning Bolt, Ornithopter, Mountain Go.
Yeah. Well, and you'll see part of the reason for that is he's trying to get under the Black Vice, which was such
He knows it's coming.
such a pervasive card at the time. And then
And
that
the
looks
rack.
like the rack.
Yeah, the rack. So if I'm mathing correctly, on turn 1, he gets down to 4 cards or less, so doesn't take damage from Black Vice, and his opponent, I don't think Solomon ever goes below 4 cards and start taking or 3 cards and start taking damage from the rack. And so both of these artifacts are just like wall paintings.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like, decks were just not that tuned. People didn't have the knowledge about what a good card is. Here you see Sol just using was it just use Strip Mine there?
Strip mine, yeah.
Yeah.
It's, yeah, I mean, a lot of the reason I would imagine people aren't, these deck lists aren't super tuned. It is funny in retrospect, as you were, kind of talking about earlier. There was really no, like the proliferation of information was a lot more, mouth to mouth than it was, typing on a message board or seeing tournament coverage or what have you.
Yeah, there you see a little take back from Saul. He played a Mazaveth and was going to play a third Vice, but then decided instead to get in with his Mishra.
Block him for 2, yeah.
Yeah. But he is racking up the damage here on his. Yeah, there's the third Vice.
This is the third Vice.
And he just can't activate the Mishra. Look, Mazaveth, of course, does not tap for mana.
Yeah.
So, yeah, now.
Fireball for 2.
They're just both just dying on the artifacts.
Well, the best part is the way they lay cards, as if the idea of the stack or responding is also just doesn't exist. There's a lot of play a card, all right, go, and it's
right.
it's almost like they're playing speed rummy or something like that. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Saul's opponent has been just throwing some
haymakers.
Yeah, haymakers. He's had a couple of ball lightnings that have gotten in. There you see a fireball for 2, and Saul. Yeah, Saul is, really not in a great spot here. Gets in with the Mishra.
And attack you.
There you go, bolt and fork.
Yeah.
I love it. There you see they're confirming life totals. That's a judge who's working with Tony at this event. Starting to try to build up a judge community. We already knew we wanted to do another one of these events, and we weren't going to be able to do it with just one judge, which is what we did for this event.
Yeah. So for the next event, do you remember what the prize in the turnout was?
Prize was a set of legends, and the turnout was north of 1,000 people. Yeah,
just
it was
big old...
it was insane. I had trauma dreams about that event for months after. Just people going, Brian. Saul is
Poor Solomon can never.
Yeah.
He's got 2 or 3 ball lightnings. His hand cannot draw a third source of red.
Yeah, he's just fireballing for 1 to try to stay under the rack as best he can. That is not another source of red.
Oh, the poor ball lightning.
He is, that's a fireball for 1. And here we go. Here's an ornithopter. Get me under that vice. I wonder if the ornithopters were sideboard tech to get under the vice. Yeah, it's all just trying to figure out some way here. Yep. Again, now a fireball for 2. And here we go.
Slow and steady wins the race.
Drew a burn spell.
Yeah, he did anything.
Yeah, going to game 3.
All right, here we go. I think it's the bottom of. I don't think it's Solomon's library. I think it's the bottom of the guy's library. We just get I know I remember seeing it just stacks up on mocks. Yeah, strip mine, just whee! There it is. There's a mox rupee on bottom. Just to prove that we're hurting ourselves.
Yeah. By the way, I believe this is the oldest existing Magic tournament footage. Until we unearth the world's video, which was from earlier this same year. Yeah. I think this is the oldest existing footage, other than maybe someone at a shop capturing a small event. So this is, and this is, I think, certainly the oldest existing finals gameplay footage. Oh, look!
That's also.
There was, I just saw a Ruby.
Yeah. Just getting side shuffled, riffle shuffled. Let's turn this into a family heirloom that no one will ever want to
Yeah.
buy.
So
And
Saul,
just out of screen is the prize right there.
yeah, you see that in the binder. Saul would go on to become a regular at Neutral Ground. He was one of our regular customers, which is why I'm so familiar. I don't know how often I ever saw this other guy again after that. This is a long time ago. So getting things started with a bolt.
Magic hasn't changed. Oh.
What did? Okay.
Here it comes. We had to look up what this card was. It like prevents damage or
It is greater realm of preservation. Right? That's
yeah.
you know, it was a sideboard card. We see the dual land there. So greater realm is for 1 and a white. The next time a black or red source of your choice would deal damage to you this turn, prevent that damage. So it was a more expensive circle of protection and required you to actually use white mana to activate it, plus another mana. But it gave you, I guess, it filled, did the job against 2 different types of decks. But,
Yeah.
okay, I think Paul was running out of battery and preserved it. So we don't see, unfortunately, all of the gameplay here. But Saul
We don't see the fireballs for 2 and 3.
Yeah, Saul does win this and becomes the first New York Magic, ultimately Gray Matter champion. Not trading.
No, I'm not trading. Get away from me. Is the
By the way,
takeaway.
he kept his word. He still has the Arabian Night set. He didn't trade it. He never sold it. He kept it to this day.
Hopefully we're able to. Hopefully you can get in contact when we get a still picture of that and put that up on the Patreon for the
Yeah.
exclusives.
Yeah, there you go. Get a look at that Arabian Night set.
And
you see the
immediately
judge?
takes this, which also never left his binder, as you were telling me the other day.
Yeah.
This is the life pad from the finals, and I am going home with this baby.
Yeah. Oh, look at that library up there in the corner. Beautiful. One of my favorite Magic cards of all time.
What if I drew an extra card at the turn?
Yeah. All right, so let's listen to Saul.
So how do you feel?
Great! Great, absolutely great. I never thought I would win. I really didn't, especially since the guy had a copy of my deck. Actually copied my deck. Him. Yeah, he played me one time beforehand at Chameleon Comics. And
I love that, right? Like, it really just
Played me
tells you.
one time.
Yeah, and copied his deck.
I copied my deck.
There was no net decking back then. There was no Usenet decking back then. People didn't post their decks. Your deck was very personal. It was really like people really adhered to that Richard Garfield idea of like this personal selection of cards, and you could see how emotional Saul got talking about the fact that this person copied his deck. It felt pretty awful, and he was terrified that he was going to lose to this guy playing his deck, which is just wild. Now you're like, oh, I'm going to go play Magic. Let me go download a deck from somewhere. You know, this was people in the dark trying to figure all this out. Whether it was the tournament organizers or the judges or the players themselves, everyone was just like fumbling around in the dark and trying to build a community and trying to build the foundation for a game that would, sustain us, and it has for the next decades. So, but thanks for doing this with me, Isaac. I'm so excited that we got to show this video off. We did a panel at MagicCon Las Vegas just prior to the actual 30th anniversary of the event, and that was a lot of fun. We got to show the video. Got to see a bunch of old faces. I'm still a little irked at Wizards. I think we got programmed up against a a Magic preview panel, which is perhaps not the best scheduling. But we'll know more in the future. I would love to do another live hello and welcome to at a Magic Con. That was a lot of fun.
That was a blast.
Yeah.
So moving forward, we'll try and get the panel footage that we were able to capture in Vegas for those of you that missed it and wanted to kind of see what other questions got asked afterwards. But also, I mean, as you're saying, this is kind of the alpha. This is like the pre-release of Hello and Welcome to.
Let's go back to my 90s comic book days here. This is Hello and Welcome to issue 0.
So when and where, can we direct people? What kind of information are we able to leak?
Yeah, well, the first issue number 1 of Hello and Welcome to will be Pro Tour New York number 1. We've done a ton of interviews with some amazing people, both Pro Tour winners from that event.
For those of you who don't know what that means, watch the episode to find out.
We multiple top 8 competitors. One of the George Baxter did an interview with us. Mark Rosewater talked to us about the event. I think one of the cooler pieces there is Covert Go Blue. Most people don't realize how long he's been playing. He's got such a youthful demeanor, but he played at Pro Tour 1 in the juniors division with his sister. And so he came and shared some memories with us. And, we're just going to tell you the story of the Pro Tour by the people who were there. I was there. Isaac was now not. 8. Were you 8 or 9 now? 9. You're 9.
I was.
So
yeah,
but,
sure. How's that?
But and then we're gonna follow that up. Each episode is gonna follow another Pro Tour, really capturing the story of the people who were there, what they remember. Funny thing, of course, is always people are like, oh, I don't really remember much. I'm not going to be very good on an interview. I don't know, blah, blah, blah. And then as soon as you start talking, they are just like recalling board states from 30 years ago, and, talking about how they built their decks and all these like really unique memories. It's been so special, giving these players an opportunity to tell their story, because a lot of this has been lost, right? There's a lot of the links to old coverage on the Wizard site are not active. And I'm hopeful that it'll be, that'll become something that becomes a priority over the coming years for them to return all that. But in the meantime, we wanted to give people a chance to do that. So, look for more Hello and Welcome to wherever you found this video. You'll be able to find
Please
more
subscribe.
Videos coming. So is that what they say? Is that the new lingo? Like,
subscribe,
and subscribe?
like, favorite. I don't know. The thing with the stuff and the bloopadoop. Yeah, do that.
Yeah. Which is, and everything. I can guarantee you that all of our interviews were conducted on high 8 video cassette, just like that original. No.
That's the ultra super special part of the Patreon that you can sign up for, is to get it in low grade, low res, uber scratchy.
Yeah. So please, look for this. Subscribe to our channel. Look for more videos. You can find me on X at Top 8 Games. You can also find me on Blue Sky, where I'm much more active these days. Just look for my name, Brian David Marshall. It also says Top 8 Games when you look for me. It's BDM at Blue Ski, whatever. I don't know how their handles work, but it's been a lot of fun there. Great Magic community on Blue Sky right now. Isaac, where are you? Where do people find you?
On Twitter at like Ikes. We should all be tagged in this somewhere. And that's where you can find me, and you can find me on the future videos with Brian here coming out, as fast as we can get them out the door for you guys.
And then how many episodes do we need to record before we interview you about your first Pro Tour?
It's going to be a while.
We'll answer that question in the next episode.
Stay tuned next time when I figure out when that was.
Awesome. Thanks so much, everybody.